What is the difference between a typical narcissistic person and a five sensory person who's just very, very logical? So people tend to confuse other types of people for narcissistic people because they had a bad experience with that person. So everybody therefore gets labeled a narcissist. But a narcissist has a very specific energetic signature that you have to watch out for as a sixth sensory, and it's different than the typical left brain person. So you might encounter the left brain person who wants to date until the cows come home, and they never want to commit. So that's a different type of problem. And you can handle that problem, and it's not too bad if you have really good boundaries as a sixth sensory. It's not narcissism. So some people will get very frustrated by this kind of pattern and call it narcissism. It is a pattern. It is a strategy that five sensories use, but you can't really call them narcissistic for employing this pattern because it's not really the worst pattern out there. If we're really honest with ourselves as humans, it's just so hard at times to get a really good match that we get along in a relationship. And that's why five sensories, being so logical, want to date until the cows come home. It's not necessarily a bad characteristic, just as long as you know how to handle it as a sixth sensory. So you don't want to get caught in situations that disempower you. You don't want to get caught in relationships that don't work for you. Absolutely. But that does not make narcissism. It does not make you a victim of narcissism. It's very specific. So narcissism starts by a person really love bombing you. Again, that can be very different from a five sensory taking their time and getting to know you and not wanting to commit. Because usually they're a bit more distant, a little bit more blasé. But a narcissist has a specific signature that they're love bombing you, and they're very, very affectionate at the beginning. It's like, oh, you're the greatest, you're amazing. And it can actually feel very intoxicating to us as a sixth sensory. We're just like, oh, I never experienced this before. This is so different from the other left brain people I've dated. But be careful, be very careful, because that could be the signature of the narcissistic person. Next phase that they go through is that they start showing signs of devaluing other people in their life in front of you. So you may not experience devaluation initially in a relationship with a narcissist because they're smart enough not to do it at the beginning. They'll know they'll lose you at the beginning if they do it too early. So what you will see is their habits popping up in other people that they've been in relationships with for a little bit longer. Like it could be their family, could be their friends, could be acquaintances, could be the waiter. You see this narcissistic behavior where they're really devaluing people in a really awful way, and they're being very hard on other people. It's like it's all about them, and the other people have to serve them and their interests, their needs. That's a sign that they're a narcissist. And then the next phase that happens is once you're really enmeshed, like you're really in that commitment, maybe you've bought property together or opened a bank account together, like you've done something major together that is hard to get out of. It's like some form of commitment. And then that's when they come after you and really devalue you because they know they've got you cornered, basically. And they are going to say all the nasty, demeaning stuff that they've been saying around other people to you. And that's why you have to watch for narcissistic people devaluing other people around you, even though you're like, oh, it's not happening to me. It's happening to the waiter. It's happening to their male friend. Maybe they're teasing each other, and I mean, sometimes males do tease each other, just kind of feel out the dynamic of how that's playing out and see if guys are laughing and playing along with it or not. And then you'll be able to tell if that person is really narcissistic. I'm telling this from a female perspective. Of course, there are female narcissists as well, and they may play it out a bit differently. Maybe they're like the mean girl and they're really mean to their other female friends, or they have a lot of male friends that they're very cruel to. Those sorts of things, watch out for. And then after they devalue you, they're really going to put you in a bad place by gaslighting you. You will mirror back your truth, be like, this is not working for me. This is the experience I'm having and it's not working. And then they will gaslight you like it never happened. That's another signature of the narcissist. And that keeps you kind of stuck in this abusive cycle. But then they come back around and they devalue you again. Then you speak your truth and say, this is happening, this is not good, and I need to leave. And then they're like, oh, that never happened. Don't leave, right? And so it's just like round and round and round and round the merry-go-round goes like this. So any sane person will leave this relationship. If you're really scared to leave a relationship like this, that means you have trauma, it means you have issues. And basically you need to go and get some help in order to leave the relationship. Sometimes it's hard because you may not be aware of this type of relationship. You may get into an abusive relationship and then it's very difficult to leave because you feel like your safety is threatened. That's a bit different. So if you feel your safety is threatened, you really need to go to your local nonprofit and get some help on how to exit safely and securely, from a situation. Maybe you do it when the narcissist is not physically around, or you find a safe place where they can't find you after you exit. Maybe you change all your numbers and your social media and your bank accounts and you get them off the bank account as the shared bank account holder. So those sorts of decisions you have to be super careful about, and you have to make sure you're getting involved with the right person when you're making a big life decision like sharing banks or sharing a house or sharing a car, like these sorts of things, because then it's difficult to unentangle yourself once you're in that situation with the person. And that's the way narcissists get you, is they get you into commitments, and you might even find it refreshing. You're like, oh, all these logical five sensory people don't want commitment. And yes, I do want a commitment as a sixth sensory, and this is so refreshing, but then that's how they catch you. And it's like we're getting into this narcissistic age where the narcissists know they have that edge because people are so scared of commitment these days. So they know they can kind of get what they want. Unfortunately, this whole fear of commitment phase that's going on in our culture makes the dating culture a prime breeding ground for narcissists to come in and sweep in and just take whoever they want. Because then people are like, well, if I leave the narcissist, like I'm going to go back to that dating culture and no one's going to commit to me ever again. And people get scared that they're not lovable. They don't know what that means. So you need to be educated about the age we're living in. That's part of it. And you have to believe in yourself and tell yourself that you're lovable, and regardless of whatever is going on around you in the culture or with people that you've been involved with, that you are still worthy of love. I know we shouldn't be naive, but we do need to be positive. Believe in yourself, believe that you are worthy, and you will get through whatever it is you're going through. That will give you the strength to be able to leave a really toxic situation. And it might even feel like you don't believe it because other people have told you something negative, especially the narcissistic person, and the negativity just seems to stick so strongly. And it really takes some courage to undo that negativity. We have to undo it all the time to stay in a positive flow state. And it's kind of like constantly flossing your teeth. Like you don't just give up on flossing your teeth one day when they have extra gunk on it. You have to keep at it if you want to have healthy gums, or you go see the dentist to get some help if you really need help. But it's the same with dealing with negativity in our lives. We have to constantly floss. I like that metaphor, to just let it go. And even if you have the principles in order to be a happy, healthy person, you still have to remind yourself to live by them. It's like following a diet. Sometimes it's like, oh, I don't eat this certain thing, and you might actually never get a craving for it again, and then one day the smell might just hit you a certain way. You go, oh, I feel a bit differently about this today, and you have to kind of remind yourself and reprogram yourself to not go for that smell of that particular type of food, if that makes sense. And in the same way, we don't want to go for the signatures of either people who are too emotionally unavailable or narcissistic.